welcome everyone. I suppose the 13th year of the apology and sorry business is normally held in the Queen's Gardens. Since the COVID-19, some 12 months ago, or nearly 12 months ago, we've had to do business and social gatherings in a different way. And I say this with my hand on my heart, that there have been a lot of people who have passed away due to the COVID-19. And I say that we are blessed here in Shepparton in the Goulburn Murray region that we haven't had a death either in the community and or at Rumbalara Aboriginal Cooperative Elders facility out in Ford Road. So I'd like to, I suppose, welcome everyone, especially those who have joined us from homes, schools, workplaces and wherever you may be. And a special welcome to elders at the Elders facility, we're live streaming to them this morning. And this is another change in terms of normally a lot of our elders would be in the gardens with us as well. But unfortunately, due to the COVID-19, we find ourselves in a different environment. And I'd like to also welcome Auntie Faye Lynham, Auntie Audrey Anderson, Auntie June Murray, Uncle George Nelson, Uncle Dick Murray, Uncle Rex Hudson, Uncle Bill Bailey, Uncle Jeff Barclay, Uncle Vincent Peters, Auntie Josephine Briggs, Uncle John Carpenter, Uncle Charles Allen, Uncle Ertl Atkinson, and also, I'm not quite sure whether Uncle Lance is in the room as well. So welcome everyone. And I'd like to now hand it over to Auntie Faye Lynham to come up and do welcome to country.
These damn masks, I haven't got COVID and neither have you, have we? This is indeed a pleasure to be here today. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Yura Yura Nations, elders past and present. Sorry day when it happened, I went up to Canberra and I was so excited, overjoyed, because a group of young people took about 5 of us elders up there to, and we was running a bit late, and as we walked in, Mr Nelson was on the screen, Brendan Nelson, opposition leader, and they all had their back turned to him. So we automatically turned our back too. And then one of the people that I was with said, "Who's Auntie Faye Lynham?" I thought, oh, I only know one, and that's me. And he said, well, Brendan Nelson mentioned your name and said that my father told them that I would be better off in a white home. And I know, but my dad would never ever say that, never. The way I was treated when I was taken away, it was horrific. Anyhow, I was gone for 10 years, and luckily that I found my brother, Wally Cooper, who's passed now, and he was my hero, my angel, and I love him for introducing me back to my family. He was in a boxing troupe that used to go around, and it's just luckily that I was in the park one day playing, and they said, the guys in the tent come out and said, hey, you Faye? And I go, oh, I wouldn't look, I wouldn't talk, because my white family told me that Aboriginals were no good, they were horrible, they were drunkards, they layabouts, they'll kill you even. And I was so scared, I was terrified. But he kept asking me, was my name Faye? Are you named Faye? And then he said, your brother Wally over there. And I looked and I knew that my brother was there, and that's how I come back home. But, you know, Brendan Nelson, the opposition leader, had no rights to say what he said about me, or not even had the decency of asking me, could he speak on my behalf. But anyhow, I just want to welcome you all here today, and I know there's a special school tomorrow is going to be listening to this. That is, what's the school? Oh, Notre Dame. And I'll say welcome to you too at Notre Dame. So have a great meeting, and we will. And thank you, everybody, and welcome.
Before we go into the full program, I'd just like to, people who can stand, a minute's silence as we've lost one of our elders in the community a few days ago, Auntie Alice Solomon. So I'd like to people to stand that can stand, and thank you.
Now we do have something for Auntie Faye, so I'll just pass this over to her right now, and then I'll come back to the microphones. Thanks, Auntie Faye, for your generous welcome to country and for the generosity of sharing your story. It's really important that we're aware of those stories and we understand them. It's really part of truth-telling, and thank you for that. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this country and these waters where we're gathered today, the 8 clans of the Yorta Yorta Nation, Bangarang, Kalithaban, Walithika, Moira, Yalupna, Kwat, Yalaba, Yalaba and Narai Ilimwarang. I'd like to acknowledge this land has always was and always will be Aboriginal land, and that sovereignty of these lands and waters was never ceded. I pay my respects to elders past and present and recognise the long and proud history of strong leaders who've worked tirelessly for Aboriginal rights. I'd also like to acknowledge other elders and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who've joined us here today. So whilst acknowledging the rich culture, long connection to this ancient and incredible ancient land and incredible resilience of the First Nations peoples, I also acknowledge the dispossession, injustices and deep hurts that have occurred in the past, and in particular the practices that led to the removal of so many infants and children, the stolen generations. As a nation, we still have much to do to right these wrongs. And I'd also like to pay respects to the emerging elders here today. It's young people like our guest speaker, Natasha, who'll be the leaders of tomorrow and will have important roles to play within their community, as well as the wider community. So just a little bit of background about the apology breakfast. I guess this year is the apology breakfast we have without a breakfast because of COVID, but I guess we all have to be adaptable. So Renee Dean and Fran Smullen, who were the co-conveners of the Reconciliation Group back in 2008, were in Canberra for the apology. I think they went with you, Auntie Faye, as part of that group. They came back with high spirits, wanting to make change and to act on the apology locally, not just to talk about the experience of the apology in Canberra. They wanted the national apology to be heard locally by the whole community so everyone could understand the heartfelt genuineness of the apology to existing and past stolen generation members and their families. So Fran and Renee wanted the broader community to have an understanding of what this apology meant for Aboriginal communities. And so having this apology breakfast every year, we're trying to ensure that it's not just a symbolic act, that the recognition of the wider community of the impacts of the stolen generations are understood. So today, the wider community seems to be more open to learning about our past and the impacts and effects of colonisation upon the many Aboriginal nations across this vast continent. We only have to look at the numbers attending the rallies and the marches and dawn services earlier this year on the 26th of January to see how this is changing. There is greater understanding that sovereignty of these lands was never ceded. We must hear the truth and understand it. This is part of truth-telling called for in the Uluru Statement from the Heart. So it's really important to thank elders like Auntie Faye, who've so generously shared their stories to help us understand. It's important to learn from the past and listen, acknowledge, respect, and act to address the imbalance in our Aboriginal communities that has resulted from generations of white privilege and previous racist policies. So that just gives you a bit of a history of where this apology breakfast came from. And up until this year, it's been held every year on the anniversary of the National Apology in the Queen's Gardens. We're hoping next year we'll be able to have it there again. So as many of you may know, the Academy of Sport, Health and Education, ASH, is integral to the annual apology breakfast. Today we have 3 of their students taking part. We have Nathan Burke, who was involved in the smoking ceremony, and he did a wonderful job. And again, it's lovely to see young people stepping up into these roles. And we have Althea Atkinson and Sinead Cooper, who'll be doing the introductions. So now I'd like to hand over to Althea from ASH.
Our guest speaker this year is Natasha Bamblet. Natasha is a mother, Indigenous leader and facilitator, speaker, storyteller and performer, while also working in and for the community, working for multiple businesses and founder of Miss Soul Inspires. Natasha is passionate about sharing her culture through workshops, performances and speaking to provide a space to connect to self, culture and country, providing people with confidence and stronger connections to live, work and growth in happier and healthier ways. Please welcome our 2021 guest speaker, Natasha Bamblet.
Nena kaka yao yambena waka, nena kanan yambena yakarum ja, damanya kumaka yaka, dumaga ito waka nido, imalang. Muma bengada boma inyan yalan waka, ganan yakarum ja, wutunada na. I say in Yori Yori language, welcome friends. We come together on Aboriginal land. We thank, acknowledge, respect the Aboriginal people and elders whose land we gather on today. Take pleasure in all our land and respect all you see. My name's Natasha Nabanunga Bamblet. I never got taught language, but I stand with pride and honour to be able to speak the language that was lost due to the separation of the stolen generation. February 13, 2008, the nation said sorry. The Prime Minister said sorry. We said sorry, and we also heard sorry. I asked family members, what does that mean? What did that do? I still hear the echoes of, I'm sorry, but we are still in a time that our children are being taken away. I'm a descendant, a grandchild from both grandparents, grandmothers, in fact, that were part of the stolen generation. I have a beautiful grandmother that sits here in the audience today. The first time ever that I get to speak in front of her. It's emotional. I'm very humbled that I get to stand and have my voice being heard, as many of my ancestors' voices were being spoken but never heard. I just want to be an echo of the elders, the ancestors, and the people that have been in the fight, have endured the struggles and the hardships, but from that has been survival. Our people, our culture, our lands, our languages, our connections survive within us. To be a young woman myself, not being able to be handed down the practices, the cultural connections from my elders, it only lays upon me as a duty of responsibility as a mother to my child, that ends with me. And I also invite it to end with you in this room and beyond, that we get to walk the journey together, moving forward. But as Deidre said, we can't do that without looking and acknowledging and listening to the past and the stories that have been told and untold and still yet are to be heard. To stand as a young woman in front of these elders, it fills me with joy, with inspiration, with fire to keep speaking and standing and marching, but also with my hand out and inviting people to really understand what sorry meant. Sorry means that there's been hurt, but sorry means that we don't do it again. I believe there's intentions behind the sorry. We are on the way, as we've seen evidence of gaps that still lie within this nation of Indigenous and First Nations people with the wider nation of Australia. But it's not the gaps and the stats that I see. The biggest, the deepest gap that lies within this nation has been silence. Our people are no longer silent. And I invite you to be no longer silent either. I have the honour to be able to continue the story of my grandmothers while they still live. And they will continue to live as our elders' stories will continue to be continued through our languages, through our connections, through our practices, through our music and our dancing, that I get to, as a generation, lead for myself and the ones to come after me. But without that, without having those leaders like my grandmother and the hardships that she endured, I wouldn't be able to see that in that, the highlights of life, being able to see her with her children, with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Coming from a family of Indigenous, non-Indigenous and Scottish, I acknowledge all parts of me. But I couldn't be prouder to be Audrey Anderson's granddaughter, and also acknowledging my mother's mother, that there's been a long line of separation and disconnection in many families, and we are on the journey back home. But I invite everybody else to join the journey, walking with us forward, and to do that we must acknowledge where we've come from and the roads ahead. I'm honoured to be able to speak today in honour and welcome of Auntie Faye and all the elders here today and that may be at home listening and watching. I encourage you to continue to listen and to stand and to walk with us in the journey forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. On behalf of everyone, we'd like you to accept these flowers and painted gum leaf. Now I would like to welcome the Mayor, Councillor Kim O'Keefe. Councillor Kim O'Keefe has lived in Shepparton for most of her life. She has run her own business in the service and training industry for the past 28 years. She has worked with both small and large businesses and companies who she continues to support and mentor. For the past 20 years, Councillor O'Keefe has been a volunteer for the Look Good, Feel Better program for women with cancer, the Shine program and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Women's health and wellbeing are areas in which she has a strong interest. Councillor O'Keefe is also a very strong advocate for homelessness. Councillor O'Keefe is passionate about Greater Shepparton. Her aspiration is to make our region a wonderful place for all residents and to see this area thrive and prosper. She is married to Brendan and they have raised their 2 daughters here in Shepparton. Can you please welcome the Mayor, Councillor Kim O'Keefe.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here and such an honour. I would like to begin today by acknowledging the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land, which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. I would like to welcome and thank Auntie Faye for that wonderful welcome to country, and a very special friend of mine. It's always wonderful to be in the same room with you, Auntie Faye. I'd also like to acknowledge other elders joining us today and those watching from our community and other communities across the country. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow councillors here today, Councillor Seema Abdullah, Councillor Anthony Brophy, Councillor Greg James, Councillor Shane Sarley and Councillor Sam Springs. And I'd also like an apology noted from Deputy Mayor Rob Priestley, Councillor Jeff Dobson and Councillor Fern Summer. Tash, thank you for that incredibly inspiring story, and I know Tash very well and we work very closely together across our community and afar, and what the work you are doing is just incredible, and the storytelling and the sharing is truly inspiring, and thank you so much for your words today. So welcome here today to commemorate the 13th anniversary of the National Apology to the Stolen Generations. Before I begin my speech, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Shepparton Region Reconciliation Group and partners involved in organising this annual apology breakfast. Your ongoing dedication and work in this space is invaluable. It is so important for us to continue to acknowledge the anniversary of former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd's national apology to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. The national apology was an acknowledgement of the truth of mistreatment, intergenerational trauma and harm caused to the stolen generation, their families and communities. The apology provided the starting point for healing and laid the foundation for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people to continue building upon and shape our collective futures as a community and therefore as a nation. As a community, we have a responsibility to continue the momentum of reconciliation and respect, recognise and celebrate the culture of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. At school, I wasn't taught the history of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. That's 40 years ago. Things are changing. It is so important that the youth today do learn this at school, as it is wonderful to have so many of our local schools watching today, and we have seen that support in the past when we could get together in the Queen's Gardens with many schools attending. In June 2019, Greater Shepparton City Council adopted its first Reconciliation Action Plan. This plan represented a historic achievement in Council's commitment to working in partnership with our community to build stronger relationships whilst creating opportunities that empower the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Greater Shepparton City Council realises that these are but the first steps, and only by working side by side with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community can we achieve a future where true reconciliation is a reality. Within Greater Shepparton, we are fortunate to have many strong Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices, many of whom are here with us today. These voices remind us of the past injustices that cannot be repeated and of progress that has been made to begin healing with the nation. As a local government, we are committed to the vision of the 2019 Reconciliation Action Plan, a future where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have equitable access, inclusion and opportunities, and where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples' cultures are honoured and respected. As we commence the discussion regarding our second Reconciliation Plan, we commit to listening to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Their voices will be heard, honoured and respected, and through collaboration we will build a much better future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. Now I'd like to hand over to Cheyenne Cooper.
Hello everyone, I'm Cheyenne. I'm a Yorta Yorta woman from the Cooper family and I'm proud to represent them here today as well as Ash. I want to pay respects and acknowledge my elders, all past, present and future. I'd like to welcome Shakina Skinlin and Elliot Hall from Shepparton Christian College. Shakina and Elliot will be reading the National Apology to the Stolen Generations. Please welcome.
Hi, I'm Elliot. This is Shakina. We are school leaders at Shepparton Christian College, and we'll be reading the apology speech made by Prime Minister Kevin Rudd at 9 a.m. Wednesday the 13th of February 2008. I move that today we honour the Indigenous peoples of this land, the oldest continuing cultures in human history. We reflect on their past mistreatment. We reflect in particular on the mistreatment of those who were stolen generations, this blemished chapter in our nation's history. The time has now come for the nation to turn a new page in Australia's history by righting the wrongs of the past and so moving forward with confidence to the future. We apologise for the laws and policies of successive parliaments and governments that have inflicted profound grief, suffering and loss on our fellow Australians. We apologise especially for the removal of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families, their communities and their country. For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, their descendants and for their families left behind, we say sorry. To the mothers and the fathers, the brothers and the sisters, for the breaking up of families and communities, we say sorry.
And for the indignity and degradation thus inflicted on our proud people and our proud culture, we say sorry. We, the Parliament of Australia, respectfully request that this apology be received in the spirit in which it is offered as part of the healing of the nation. For the future, we take heart, resolving that this new page in the history of our great continent can now be written. We today take this first step by acknowledging the past and laying claim to a future that embraces all Australians. A future where this Parliament resolves that the injustices of the past must never, never happen again. A future where we harness the determination of all Australians, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, to close the gap that lies between us in life expectancy, educational achievement and economic opportunity. A future where we embrace the possibility of new solutions to enduring problems where old approaches have failed. A future based on mutual respect, mutual resolve and mutual responsibility. a future where all Australians, whatever their origins, are truly equal partners, with equal opportunities and with an equal stake in shaping the next chapter in the history of this great country, Australia.
Thank you, Shekinah and Elliot. Now I'd like to invite those who are able to stand as we observe a minute's silence to remember those children over many generations who were forcibly taken from their families, from their communities and from their country. We also remember those parents, families and communities who suffered these as a result of these removals. And thank you to Wilfred for playing. Now I would like to introduce Lily Walker. Lily Walker has been singing since she was a youngster. She is a part of the Dangala Children's Choir and has performed in Deborah Cheatham's opera Peak and Summer. Can you please make Lily Walker please feel welcome?
Hi everyone, I hope you're all enjoying yourselves today. My name is Lily. I am Yorta Yorta on my dad's side and Garamay and Kukuyalanji from Northern Queensland on my mum's side. I attend Goulburn Valley Grammar School and in Year 10 currently. I'm also part of the choir as was mentioned, and today I'm going to sing 2 songs for you, both that have Yorta Yorta language. The first song I'm going to sing is called Narrabri Farah. Many of you may have heard it before from the Sapphires, and this song is in Yorta Yorta language. If you know it, feel free to sing along with me, and I hope you enjoy it. Wamrika Moses yin wala wala yapane butch Narabura Farah Yamanayala Narabura Farah Yamanayala Narabura Farah Yamanayala Narabura Farah Yamana Bura Farah Yamana Bura Farah Yamanayala Yundu Beku Yesu Brawa Bakana Yamana Nara Bura Farah Yamanayala Nara Bura Farah Yamanayala Nara Bura Farah Yamanayala Nara Bura Farah Yamana Bura Farah Yamana Bura Farah Yamanayala The The second song I'm going to sing for you today is called Birama Mana. This song is a song from the Dungala Children's Choir, and the words Birama Mana translate to heading back to the nest or heading back home. So it's very much about going back to where you come from and where you feel you belong at heart. I can only imagine the stories you could tell of the people who have passed beneath your shade, and the shelter you provided to the magpie and the crow became a home, became a home. Yin yawa madaman bayala ganya kukaga gonga haidangamai biramamana biramamana biramamana. I've been away for such a long, long time, looking for a place to call my own. Now an ancient river calls me, and I know where I belong. I'm heading home. I'm heading home. Yin yawa madaman bayala ganya kukaga gonga haidangamai biramamana biramamana biramamana.
Can everyone give Lily another big round of applause, please? Now I'd like to pass over to Uncle Bobby Nichols and DJ Robertson from the Shepparton Region Reconciliation Group.
Okay, I think I've got to put my glasses on. Now, where am I? Yeah. I keep taking it off, but then I look at my elders here that I need to protect as well. So I'll still become the masked bandit. I'd like to thank Lily, and do you want me to go through this? Yes, you can. Yeah, and I'd like to, with Lily, she surprises me every time we engage her to sing for us. Some of the songs that not only that she's learnt to sing, especially in language, as well as in English. So thank you very much, Lily, for your great entertainment to us. And I think I was looking at the audience and I could see foot tapping and hands tapping on their knees and whatever like that. So yeah, I'd also like to thank Auntie Faye Lynham for your precious and kind words, and sometimes it's sad words, similar to what Natasha spoke in regards to her words in regards to her mother, Auntie Audrey Anderson. I know Auntie Audrey, her and I sort of grew up here in Shepparton many years, and so yes. I'd like to thank Althea and Cheyenne, students from Ash. And I was only, again, saying to Annie Fay, we said that's, when we talk, we say, oh, that's Coop's daughter there, so I hope I'm not embarrassing you with that. As well as Sakina and Elliot for the reading of the apology. I'd also like to thank Rumbalara Aboriginal Cooperative, Kayla Arts, Mr Eric Brown for the hand-painted gum leaves. I believe they were fantastic work done. I'd also like to thank Sandhurst Care for their ongoing support of the apology breakfast.
And a big thank you to Nathan Burke from Ash for his smoking. And a day like today doesn't happen without all the support from people like you at home, in schools, in your workplaces, wherever you are watching this event. We thank you for your attendance. We'd like to also thank Ash, as we've mentioned before, for your ongoing involvement, and particularly Rob. I know getting students organised when they've just come back this week is always a big challenge, so thanks, Rob. We really appreciate all your support. And thank you to the local schools, because I know the local schools will be watching this, whether they're watching it tomorrow, and we thought it was going to be at 8 o'clock, but there's been a bit of a glitch, so it will be at 10 o'clock. We hope you're able to join us either at 10 for the download stream, or a bit later. So for the staff and students at the different schools, thank you for your support. And we really have to thank Greater Shepparton Council, in particular Joel and Matt up the back, who've helped us work our way through this year's apology breakfast. It's been a bit of a challenging one because it's something we've not done before, but we've got there, so thank you. And most particularly, thank you, Natasha, for your amazing words. And really, Natasha gave a challenge to all of us to work together and to walk together. And so thinking about what can we do? So if you're a student in school, find out more, talk to your teachers, talk to other students, particularly Aboriginal students in your school communities. They have a wealth of knowledge and they may be comfortable to talk to you about it. Find out, there's a great section at the Shepparton Library on Aboriginal history, on books, on stories. You can find out things on the internet. Knowing and understanding is so important, and so we can't, as Natasha really so beautifully put it, we really can't move forward until we really understand what happened before. So I guess that's the challenge. You can do things also, contact your federal MPs asking for more action on closing the gap and implementing all of the recommendations of the Bringing Them Home report, because many of them haven't been implemented, even this so far after it. The other thing you can do is get involved with your local Aboriginal community. There are activities. Go to the footy club, the Rumbalara Footy Club up the road. They welcome people coming and joining. And again, it's part of that walking together. Go to, well, not quite at the moment because they're in the process of moving to the new SAM, but Kayla Arts is an amazing place to go and explore and find out more about Aboriginal art, about culture, about stories. Visit Reconciliation Victoria's website for more information of things that are happening. Read and find out. So in closing, both Bobby and I would like to thank all of you who are here today for attending. Big thank you to Natasha, and a big thank you both to Shekinah and to Elliot and to Chris, the principal from the Shepparton Christian College. This is the first time their students have read the apology and they've done a great job, so a big thank you to you for being involved. And thank you to everyone here, and thank you to everybody out in Cyberland, wherever you are joining in. And before we finish, I think both Bobby and I would really like to thank all of the elders who came along today. It's so lovely to have you join us, and we know it's a big thing to get here today. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we're now free to go again. So see you next year. Hopefully not in this environment. Yes.